All right. And the agenda is posted. Thank you. All right, so let's get started here. So for announcements, looks like we are, let's see here. Is this? Nope.
There,
I
it looks
got,
like
I pulled up the
like
old
we're
ones.
do a pause for a minute.
Let me grab current. Okay, there we go. Helps to have the right agenda in front of me. I'm glad I did not start going off. Okay, anybody have any announcements? I don't have anything on my announcements. All right. So, new business. So the officer election results and presentation of new officers. We're going to talk about that real quick. I do not see all of our elect here, but we do have one, which is Andrew. Andrew has been officially voted in as our next vice president. So he will be jumping into Bob's chair. Bob will be jumping into my chair after he takes a little hiatus for family. So as we roll into the new year, I will be kind of backseat driving and helping Andrew along in some of the duties while Bob is gone. So I will be taking care of Andrew to make sure that he is not left high and dry. So, um, so Andrew is our new VP. We also voted in, okay, sorry. I should always have these things up in front of me when I start, so I don't do this to everybody. But I do not want to just blurt out information here. Okay, we have Kosi, who is our member at large unsupported. He is our first international board member, and we are excited to have him on the board. Also, we have for secretary, we have Christy, who will be joining us. And, you know, this was an interesting election this time because we had 3 positions to fill and we had 2 people running for each position. So that was an interesting election this time around. I was glad to see people voting, and I appreciate everybody that ran for office. Please note that if you ran for office and didn't get elected, we still love you and want to have you around. And don't let that discourage you from trying again next year, because we are having elections all the time. Maybe there's a better position for you the next time around. So please keep your options open and be open to running again. But Andrew, we welcome you to the crew and hope that you will enjoy your time with this bunch. I'm sure they will take good care of you, and I'll make sure that they are in line.
Thanks, everybody. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure we will do fine things together.
We're going to give him all sorts of grief, Christopher.
I'm sure you will.
Just because I can.
In addition to elections, we had 2 measures on the ballot. One was for the proposed bylaw change for membership under Article 2. That was approved 67-5. So this does away with the half-year membership fee. And I have to say that this was a good time for this because we've made some adjustments in membership. I actually worked with John yesterday on the forms for the upcoming renewal for membership and the new membership form. And with the added element of institutions being able to pay for all their employees that want to be members all in a lump sum, that kind of added a new element that I would not wanted to have Georgette and John to wade through all of that with happier memberships. So I'm glad we were able to take care of that. This is going to simplify things a little bit on their end, just overall. But as I mentioned, the institution memberships will be implemented this next go around, and John will be able to invoice those institutions with a single invoice rather than piecemealing all those members in. So I think that will help everybody on both ends. And John seems excited about that. So we'll see how it goes. You know, we got to give this a run and see if that improves things on it, both sides. So that bylaw change was approved, and also on the ballot was a one-time stipend for the U.S. The koha-US financial manager that was 74 and 2 against. So that passed, and so we will be doing a one-time stipend of $600 to John for his work. Again, just a reminder, that was because John has been with us for quite a while, and he does not have an easy out of his position. If he goes, boy, we have to work hard to find somebody to fill those shoes. He is not voted in like everybody else. The board accepted him as financial manager, and he stays on indefinitely until he decides he's done with us. So we just wanted to show him our appreciation with that one-time stipend. So this is not an ongoing expense, and we just, we show people that are on the board that we want them around by we vote them in, they get 2 years to serve and spend their time with us, and then they're free of us, and they can go away. But we want to encourage John to stick around. So that's what drove this, really. So we thank you for everybody that voted. I appreciate everybody's input on that. I hope you took advantage of the membership that you paid for, because your voice needs to be heard, and I feel like we did here. We had, I think, if I remember correctly, about 57% turnout on the votes, which was, I wish we could get more people involved. I want to hear people's voices. I want our membership to feel like they are being heard and that their voice matters. You can't do that if you don't vote. So 57% is, I think it's better than it has been in the past, but definitely could see some more involvement from our members on that. It's one of the few perks of being a member. We try to give a lot of resources out to the community just in general, but how the organization functions is driven by membership, and how where we go for conferences is driven by membership. And so membership feedback is very, very important. All right, that said, let me get back to the agenda. As mentioned, we're working on the 2024 koha-US membership. John and I are finalizing the form for that. We are moving over to more of an internal form system. We've used Google Forms in the past. We're trying to keep things more in-house with this information. We have a little bit more flexibility with that as well. So the forms are going to look a little bit different. From what I understood with John, we're shooting for Friday morning to get those renewals out to everybody. If you're going to re-up for the next year, so be on the lookout for that. As I said, the form's quite different, but John and I worked hard yesterday on streamlining that form so that it makes the process easy as possible. There are two forms. There's one for new membership and there's one for renewing membership. So if you are already a member, you will get the renewal membership, and we'll confirm that at the beginning of the form to make sure that you're in the right form. So be on the lookout. Again, that comes out hopefully Friday morning, and John will be joining us later on in this meeting, and he can add anything that you might want to about that later. All right, let's talk real quick about board meeting and general meetings. Board had a discussion about our meeting times. Generally, the board meeting is held the first Wednesday of the month, and the general meeting is held the second Wednesday of the month. We had a discussion about this. It's made it very challenging for the board meeting. You know, we've discovered over the years, especially, you know, with how much the organization has grown, we have discovered that over the years, it's challenging for Georgette and John to coordinate and get their information together for their monthly reports. Especially for the board meeting. It's where we do all our business. And, you know, so they're gathering up the end of the month information and trying to get it ready for that first Wednesday. It just really puts them under a crunch. And so what we're trying to do is trying to adjust some things so that they have a little bit more breathing room and a little bit more time to get that information together. So we talked about several options, and we think that the best option at this time is for us to flip the schedule around. We want to keep these two time slots, but we just want to change them, switch them, so that we are doing our general meeting the first Wednesday of the month and our board meeting the second Wednesday of the month. Now, that works well for board members, but I know that it is an adjustment for members, because, you know, most of our members are not, you know, dealing with that first Wednesday. They're focused on that second Wednesday. It's going to shift your time to that first Wednesday. So we're gonna do this starting next month, and we're gonna see how that goes. It's going to be an adjustment. I know it'll probably be a little bit thin as people realize, oh, that meeting is this time, not that time, and we use the same link. So we probably will end up with a lot of members popping in on the board meeting next month. So, but wanted to make sure that everybody had an understanding of what we're doing and why. Any
And
questions about that?
I want to thank everybody for agreeing to do that. It has gotten tight, and we realized that in January, we come back on the 2nd after a long weekend, and our meeting's the 3rd. And so that does make it really tight, you know, getting numbers and things. So I really appreciate that you were open to switching that for us.
And Christy and I will be meeting next week and to go over some training, and we'll update the calendar to reflect the change at that time.
Awesome, thank you. I'll send out an email to the membership this afternoon to let everybody know of that change too, because not everybody's here, obviously. We have over 120 members now, which is awesome. And boy, this would be a big room if everybody was here, but we would sure love to see more people. Maybe this time change will make it possible. We'll see.
Our previous high was somewhere in the 90s, wasn't it? So this is a huge increase.
Huge increase, yes.
70s,
we have 100.
80s, I think was
Mhm.
usually the norm that we sat at. So yeah, this is really significant. This has been a big boost for membership.
It's been great.
All right. So that's it for most of koha-US business, except for, well, I have on the agenda a topic for us to open up with, but this is open discussion now for just about anything. But I did want to kick us off with the topic of upgrades. 2305 is out for test servers, some early adopters, and I haven't had a lot of opportunity myself to go into our test server since it was upgraded to take a look at things. But 2305 is, there, and I know that some of you may have played with it more than others. And I do know that our contribution to 2305 was the ability for users to dismiss messages on the OPAC once they've read them. So any messages that staff put in for the patrons to see on the OPAC, they can now dismiss, and we can see that on the staff side that they've read that message or just at least dismissed it. So that's a huge win for us. I'm excited to see that feature in action. But have any of you had a chance to take a look at 2305, and are there any features of significance or anything to be watching out for?
We're live on 2305, but haven't really run into anything. The advanced cataloging editor was broken for about 4 hours and then it was fixed. Yeah, so it was a mildly inconvenient 4 hours. Yeah, really nothing else to report. There wasn't a ton in this upgrade that we were champing at the bit to use though. So like we've turned on a few things and it's all fine.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
And for something to break, if to have anything break, I guess an advanced editor, I would say the advanced editor is probably one of the better things to break, because you have the classic editor available, so it's not like you were left high and dry. Yes, I know, Heather, I'm sorry.
Well, and it was one of those that the bug was already fixed. The fix just hadn't. We were 1 point release behind getting it, so it was just sort of Bywater needed to scooch us ahead a little. Very small emergency.
I've lost a friend here today.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the recording and see what I missed. Sorry, I had a physician trying to get an article who's not computer savvy.
We're just talking about 2305 and things that people have run into, and one thing that Andrew brought up was that the advanced cataloging editor was broken for a few hours, and it was a quick fix. So anybody else had a chance to play with it, see anything new that they liked or didn't like?
Yes, in fact, I installed it Monday and went back and reinstalled it. Continued to work out the problems yesterday. And And when you go to the screen in About Koha, you go into the screen of problem files, and there's a list of things that are in the biblio and deleted biblio that you have to remove one by one or by SQL. I had taken those out a long time ago, but they were back.
Uh-oh.
So I went in and deleted using an SQL command. And then I went back and did it on the real version, not just the copy that I'd spun up to practice on. And then Elasticsearch was having problems re-indexing. I tracked it down to things that, well, I got the message 12 records were not indexed by Elasticsearch. I tried exporting all the bibs and then look in the bib for the text that was choking on and couldn't find it. Then I exported an entire shelf list, and the bibs were in the shelf list, but not in the export file. I had to track down those. Fortunately, when Elasticsearch was choking on things, it did spit out the bib number. And I found a few things I tried to put into a list, and it caused a 500 error.
Uh-oh.
I deleted those too. And no problem. But some things, yeah, show up when I run complete shelf list using reports, but not when I export everything from the cataloging screen. That's what I did yesterday, all day.
Any other things of note for 2305? I'm surprised George isn't here. He is usually a wealth of information.
So yesterday at the system admin, we talked about the new system preference that lets you prioritize, tell the hold queue how to prioritize something. I got all worried about it because I thought it was going to mess up my system, but I started looking at the code and it looks like it's confusing because if you look at the system preferences, that system preference and local holds priority together, they look the same, but Andrew explained that they do something a little bit different. But it looks like it goes through local holds priority first and then hits this new system preference. And I'll find the bug because I'm not being very clear. But basically, I don't have anything to worry about because my system, my current setup is always going to hit local holds priority before it hits this new system preference that's picking home or holding branch.
The new system preference is, I think the name is holds queue prioritize branch, and it's to do with when the holds queue is picking an item to fill a hold, it has some default logic built into it before it even thinks about your like holds queue weight or your transport cost matrix. It prior to 2305 always wanted to, if possible, fill the hold with an item whose home branch matches the hold pickup location, which makes some sense for a lot of libraries. But this gives you the option of making that like default preference instead of always trying to get items back to their home library. You can make it prioritize instead filling the hold with an item that is already at the library where the hold is to be picked up to minimize transfers. So that this new system preference is all about which item gets picked to fill a hold, whereas local holds priority is on the other end of the hold. It's about which patron gets the hold and which order the hold list is interpreted in, because local holds priority is about when you check in an item, if it's already at a branch where the second in line patron wants to pick it up, do you skip the first in line person to give it to the second in line person? So the two things are going to interact somehow, but not real directly.
I see how that would work if you have collections that float around.
Yeah, and that's exactly us. Like, that's why I was watching this bug, because every single item we own has our main branch as the home library, and everything floats. Wherever it gets checked in, it stays there. So
my question is, what does that do for? I'm wondering if this is going to throw some confusion in it, unless there's some sort of marker or status that it avoids. But what is this going to do for, like, okay, I'm library A, library B, or a patron checked out something that's from library B. They checked it in back here, and it is in a bin waiting to be transferred. But its last known location is here, and it shows up on our holds queue. Will it show up on our holds queue, or is it because it's already been triggered to go somewhere else that it won't? That's my question.
I can't remember if items that are in an active transfer get targeted for the holds queue. I would hope not, because that'd be a little weird.
Yeah, because it's like, once it's in our bins, it's like out of mind. It's like, I wouldn't want stuff showing up on our holds queue. It's like, where the heck is this thing?
I don't think it does, because we would have run into that with
Okay.
like how it's currently doing.
Okay.
Like, things that are in transit never show up on our holds queue at present, so I don't think it would affect that. My concern was we need local holds prioritization to take total precedence for us, because that's part of our whole new item sharing thing. Like, we create comfort with the libraries. If they buy a book, their patrons are getting it first no matter what. And I was concerned that the system preference might interfere with that, but the default is home library still. So it's just sort of doubling up on that. But if I change it to holding library, which is the new option, then it would mess up my workflow, but work for other libraries' workflows. So it's a good change. And I did put the bug number in there. It's 31557 if you want to read more about it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, because I know that we have a lot of libraries in our system that don't have floating collections, but we do have a small group that does float some things around, and I'd be interested to see if how that works for them, and if there is any side effect for us if we turn that on. So
the only thing, like, our real expectation out of it is that we transfer fewer items, and not a lot fewer, but some fewer.
yeah. Okay. Heather threw into the chat that she likes the report a concern feature for patrons to report concerns about cataloging records. Are you being serious, or are you being sarcastic about that? Because some people, I think some people don't want that. Some people do.
No, I'm entirely serious. Yes, we have really wonderful patrons. And yeah, especially those who read the books and say, "Oh, this is also about this," and I can add some more subject terms. Yeah, I'm a solo cataloger too, so I know it's a shock to hear it, but occasionally I do make a typo. I'll be our secret, but they can. I know I'm among friends, but yeah, then the report the concern feature is useful if that happens ever.
Usually we have people that will make comments in the comments section on the reviews. So I guess this is more of a direct approach rather than a passive aggressive approach to addressing things that they see. So
Yeah, well, Heather and I have small specialized libraries with specialized clientele.
Yeah,
that a-
in a public library, I'm leaving that off. I have concerns for potential for abuse for sure. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
So it's attached to a system preference on or off? Okay, good.
my feelings exactly. It's like, I don't know if I want, I don't know if the catalogers would appreciate me turning that on. So yeah, I'll leave it up to them. If George were here, I would think that he would say, I'm not even going to let them know. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, and this isn't related to 2305. This is happening currently. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But this is, I'll throw it in here. This is just a bug that I posted yesterday, brought to my attention. And I couldn't find anything else on this subject matter, but it appears that if you merge records, and if those records are part of lists, the only list that retains the record is the destination record. Everything else that's brought into that, if those records were on lists, they just fall off. They're no longer on those lists. So something to be aware of. I don't, unless we're doing something wrong, and I'm welcome to hear or get input on that. But that's a little concerning, because if you're depending on your lists for some workflows of some sort, and you depend on those lists to be accurate or consistent, they might not be. If your records are getting merged, some things might fall off those lists. So that's something to watch out for. Maybe give some feedback on that, or if there's something out there that I missed in the bugs. But that was surprising to me that was happening. I'm surprised that nobody caught that earlier. And because merging has been around for a while. I know that I think that bib merging has been around for quite a while. So maybe we just utilize our lists a little bit more than others, but it makes it, if it is truly a problem, it makes it a complicated problem, because it's not like, people monitor those lists and check to see if things fall off of them. And so if you're depending on those lists being accurate and being what you put in them, you get no notification that those things fell off, unless the person that is merging the bibs checks to see if those things are on lists and lets the owning library know, because they might not have control over putting the destination bib in its place. So
Christopher, I put another bug into chat that is for the same thing and is a little bit older and engendered a little bit of argument in the community. Just as to whether this was an enhancement or a bug to make merge bibs retain the lists. A predictable argument. Anyway, I'm gonna mark yours as a duplicate, but I want to tell you because that always seems rude.
No, that's I appreciate that. It's good. I search for these things. I put in terms that I think that are going to work and get me results, and I didn't find anything, so I reported it. So I don't mind, if somebody says this is a duplicate, because I just couldn't find it. And sometimes those duplicates, maybe searching, maybe it broadens the searching for people so that they find it easier. So I'm not insulted at all.
When I vaguely remembered this one because I've been involved in an argument. So that helps.
And that one wasn't started too long ago either. It's like July.
That's such a silent failure. I can see it taking a while for anybody to notice that titles are falling out of their lists.
Yeah. And you know, I think, you know, that's why it's important to bring up something like that here, so more people are aware and they can chime in on it. I may even talk George into us doing a short little video on it so people can see it in action and without having to mess with their own stuff and see what the ramifications of that are. But yeah, I think it's, boy, if there's an argument for it to just disappear, I can't understand what that argument would be. I'll have to go look through that because I don't know why that would be a discussion. It's like people put these items on their lists and they expect them to be there. And I would think at least put the destination, you know, bib in its place, you know, have it look and see if it's on a list. And if it is, put the destination reference in its place. Easy peasy. All right.
I found a couple more things in my list of steps I took. This is probably for unsupported people only. Everyone is supported. You can go get a cup of coffee. That I was John, don't go anywhere. Uh, when I went from I think it's 2211 to 2305, I had to specify the apt-get update dash dash allow dash release info dash change. So Ubuntu knew that yes, it was looking for 2305. Second thing, I got an error message about common can't install because it's lacking a dependency, which was looked to me like koha-110n. Well, it took several tries and a really good look at a very big screen, koha-L10n. And on this screen, the L and the 1 more distinct than the screen at home. Well, that was a real conversation stopper. You can come back from getting coffee now.
I had those problems. I'm trying to think that, you know, this goes way back because I haven't run a system in 3 years, but I had a dependency problem like that once. And it took me the better part of the day to figure out what I needed to do to resolve it, because the package the installer said it was missing wasn't a package I could find on any repository. Yeah, and I don't remember exactly how I ended up fixing it. I just did, and I thought, thank God, because people were getting antsy.
Yeah, and there's also, okay, this package depends on this, so I install this. No, you can't install this. The package depends on that. No, you can't install that. I down to 3 or 4 layers where I finally got everything straightened out.
And I thought to myself, come on, dependency relationships are supposed to prevent this from happening.
Are you talking about Ubuntu or real life?
Pick.
I also found
Let's
a
keep this
problem.
civil, please. Okay.
I, excuse me, was having allowing a new match point when staging and then importing records. Wouldn't allow me to, and it wouldn't use the ones that existed. That has somehow been resolved. Katrine tried, Katrine, anyway, tried to replicate it and she couldn't, so she closed the bug, and somehow it took care of itself. Which leads me to not a bug, just something interesting I found out I could do. But let's keep on with bugs. I'll get that later.
Who else? 2305 stuff or just bugs in general?
So the most ancient bug coming in 2305 is sort of exciting. It's bug 3150. And that lets us modify the cart and list content emails with template toolkit. So that's kind of we got control over something we didn't have control over before. So that's exciting.
About time.
And it's really old.
I've been in discussion, and it's kind of been interesting because I would be in a discussion about something and they would Catherine and someone else chimed in on it and decided now it can't be done, and they closed the discussion. I keep reopening this bug. You know, they would comment on it, close the bug right away, and it's like, you didn't even give me a chance to have a discussion about the thing before you just decided to close the door on this. But I can't remember the bug number on it. Let me pull it up. But it was kind of interesting. Let's see here. Is it? No, it's in discussions. Oh yes, okay. Here it is. I'm getting slightly faster in finding my things, but there's a discussion I'm having with them. I know it's an issue primarily with, you know, putting the cart before the horse, and it's the verification emails. And I know it's also not necessarily a high priority thing, but you know, when I go to look at emails that we've sent to patron, I go to, you know, the patrons notifications and see all the things that have been sent to them. I even see the welcome message that goes out to them, but I don't see the message that went out to verify their email. And that may not be a huge deal to people, but it seems like if I'm going to look to see if any attempt was made, that's where I would look. But apparently you know, their account is not fully set up or you know, established enough for that information to be linked yet. I think there should be some way, because I mean, it's you know, you were talking about verifying somebody's email for an account. There's got to be some way to link that information. But it would be nice to be able to go in there and say, oh yeah, it did try to send you that verification. We have no way of knowing if it tried to send that verification unless we dig through logs, which I loathe doing, you know. So so you know, it's just a conversation at this point. I tried to respond. I opened it back up and tried to respond and throw it into discussion mode before they could close the door on me on that one. I think something could be done with it. I think that it could be useful, you know, to some people to see, you know, it did make an attempt to send that verification out rather than us just having no clue. And you know, I mean, it would be helpful to see what address did it try to send it to. I mean, if we had that kind of information, I think that would be valuable. So, oh yeah, you tried to send that verification to this address and you had a typo in there or something like that. It would be nice to be able to see that kind of information. And you know, it should be associated with that account, whether or not it's, you know, fully done or not. You know, the patron has entered information and wants to verify their email at that point. The other thing, and I think I have another bug somewhere, but not in this one. It's an much older bug, but is that this is, you know, I think the only time that we verify an email, and it would be nice that, you know, if, you know, when we changed an email address in a patron account or added an email address to a patron account, that we had some sort of mechanism that, you know, we put in an email address and we hit verify and we can see whether or not that email's been verified or not. Koha does not have that capability at this time, and it would be nice if it did. A lot of systems have email verification to determine whether or not the email's been verified, and whether or not it should even try to send an email to the address. It would be, I think it would be really helpful down the road for Koha to have that verification and not try to send out emails to unverified email addresses. I can't tell you how many email addresses we get bounces on. They simply don't exist. And it's either staff fat fingered an address in, the patron fat fingered the address in, or they just made up something for whatever reason. And we have a lot of email addresses that don't exist. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I wish we had more verification capabilities in Koha for those things. That and SMS. I think those are two things that should be verified.
There's a bug that is interesting when you've got a lot of different branches that we ran into a few months ago, and it's bug 26,500. And the problem is if you've got a patron who's checked out items from multiple different branches and the circ rules are using the checkout branch for the rules, and you're using automatic renewals, the renewals are not going to be correct because they're based on the branch of the library that's logged in. And if those libraries that they checked out from have different circ rules, they're not going to match what's actually displayed. And so it's a very confusing way to show renewals. And I understand why it's happening, but it's confusing when people start going to different places. You can't actually trust what's showing on their account for the renewals.
So are renewals, well, okay. So when you're talking about renewals, you're talking about when somebody renews an item that a library gets credit for renewing that item or recognized for doing that. What I mean, because I'm trying to, okay, I'm trying to understand. I mean, a renewal is a renewal, and it's not registering in the item that it got renewed, or
It's registering in the item, but it doesn't display correctly on the patron's account. So if a patron comes in and they ask, how many renewals do I have left, or when is this renewing? They're not going to get the correct information.
Got it.
I tried to broach the subject once. I have a closed bug you can look at where I would really like it to like store the library they were standing at for renewals and follow that through. So like if they're standing at library A and they can have 3 renewals there, and they go to library B, they should be able to still have 3 renewals because the initial checkout library is the one that gave them the checkout and they're the ones responsible for it. But the suggestion was to change the circ control, and I can't do that. So but there's some more information on that bug I linked if you want to feel my pain.
Thanks.
Interesting.
Jason, would splitting circ control into like checkout control and return control, or renewal control rather, because I personally want a return control system preference so we can get really obsessive about it.
Yeah, a renewal control system preference would be what would help us, because then we could say the renewal is controlled by the transacting library, not the
Yeah.
staff's logged in library, which is what it's choosing right now.
Renewals are weird like that.
It does make sense. I mean, you know, we let the circing library, if I remember correctly, we let our circing library determine the rules. But I mean, yeah, the renewals are kind of nebulous, and it should be ironed out that, you know, do the renewals go off of that circing library, which I think makes sense, you know, just by default, but you know, maybe they don't want it that way. Maybe they want the library that they're at going by their rules on renewal, because it can't, you know, I mean, technically the item could be checked in at that library and then checked out at that same library and be checked out under a different set of rules. So why wouldn't the renewals then follow that particular library? So I guess, you know, there could be an argument for either way, but we should have control over that particular element. Before we continue on with discussion, real quick, I wanted to give John, since John is here, just a quick moment to respond or say his piece about the upcoming membership renewal. We did talk about that at the beginning of the meeting. I did say that we're shooting for Friday morning to get the membership and renewals information out, that you and I have slaved over the forms, ironing that out and making that as streamlined as possible. Is there anything in particular you wanted to add to that or say about it?
Looking at the attendee list, either current or previous board members, and all of whom had you know, several years of history with this organization, there's nothing really new to say other than the emphasis of organization of renewals by organization. And this is directly related to the discussions that were had at the meeting when we were in Portsmouth earlier this year. Let's see, most of you are individuals. Most of you don't have multiple people. Barbara and George, I think, are the only two that have multiple people here. And renewals are now going to be organized by institution based on a conversation I had with George. You will have the option to be billed as an organization or to receive individual bills. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this process will turn into. Membership's gotten a little bit unwieldy, and it's hoped that putting together things by organization will make that a little bit easier. Going from 122 individuals down to about 75 organizations, many of whom are single member. But we do have several organizations that have at least 5 members, and their payment departments are like, why do we have to reimburse 5 people? Why can't you just bill us for all 5 at once? So it's hoped that this will reduce my effort. It's hoped that this will reduce the efforts that are needed on behalf of those that support multiple members. I'm not too familiar with the skills collaborator list because I don't pay any attention to it. I note that the skill collaborators aspect will be managed separately. Those that are currently skill collaborators will be contacted to see if they want to remain collaborators. And Christopher, something to talk to you about. We have the list of skill collaborators, but we don't actually say what they do. The skill collaborators list is behind the password because you got to be a member, but we don't talk about that program anywhere specifically. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about putting that somewhere so that people can say, what's a skill collaborator? And I didn't realize that was an issue until today when I was working on the membership form. When the renewals go out, that means membership will be open not just to those renewing, but those interested in new membership. That's not going to apply to anybody here because everybody here's either been a member. I think everybody here is actually a 2023 member without exception. So stay tuned. Your primary site contact, or you, if you're your only member, will get that renewal invitation. And I'm looking forward to getting the 2024 membership cycle open. Thank you to Christopher for all of his work yesterday and working with me on working within Forminator, a WordPress extension. It's given me the opportunity to experiment with forms in a different way, and I learned a lot from talking with Christopher yesterday and how to clean up some of the decision tree stuff that I had that worked but made more sense and were cleaner once I talked to Christopher, and he helped me. So thank you to Christopher for his guidance and his continued hosting of our website and the forms. One important thing to note, membership renewals are different than membership new memberships now. There will be two forms, and if you try to submit one on the other form, you're going to get a warning that tells you not to do it. If you do it after that, I can't help you because that just means you can't read. But there were plenty of people that show they can't read. Hopefully none of you are amongst them because I will have just insulted everybody in this room. And that is not my intention because I like all of you. And I like talking with all of you on a regular basis. So stay tuned. Friday morning is the goal. We should be able to easily meet that. And again, we're looking forward to 2024, hoping that's just as good a year for us as 2023.
John, why is there a sudden dip in membership? All right.
I'm trying to read his name tag on the bottom of Zoom, and it's Joe Starbarns, right?
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Maybe I can't read it right. I don't know.
Get a bigger screen. That'd help me.
All right. We are down to the last minute here, folks. Again, just wanted to repeat, especially since George is here. Now I have to repeat everything. Next month, we are starting to swap the board meeting and the general meeting. So the general meeting is going to be the first Wednesday of the month, and the board meeting will now proceed on the second Wednesday of the month. So if you show up next month on the second Wednesday, you're going to be bored to death. Just going to tell you that now. So I hope to see all of you next month, the first Wednesday, which is, what did we say? It is the 3rd. So we will reconvene with the general koha-US meeting on January 3rd. All right. Got that? Spread it around. I'll send out an email later today. Thank you.
I plan
everyone,
on
for
still
showing
being
up.
hung over that day.
Well, maybe it'll give everybody else a chance to talk.
I gave you plenty of a chance today by not being here, so sorry.
And it was a good discussion too.
Yeah,
You
I
missed
still
a
have
lot.
my thing to talk about, but I'll send it to the list. Bit of
All
a
right.
neat trick.
So we're going to transition into our conference meeting. So those of you sticking around for the conference, go ahead and stay online. Those of you not, we'll see you next month.